Okay, good morning. Thanks everyone for joining us for this webinar co-hosted between Torsion Information Security and Optrium, entitled Confident Data Governance for Home Working. So on this presentation, we're going to talk you through a little bit about the recent explosion caused by the COVID virus, the recent explosion in home work. It means for the security and compliance of our data. We're going to discuss quickly why keeping control of access has become more difficult than ever as a result of this explosion in home working and other trends in the information management and security industry. We'll mention why business-driven intelligent automation is really the only answer to keeping strong control and visibility of who has access to what information. And then we'll introduce the solution to these growing challenges, which is Torsion information security. So in terms of who's speaking this morning, so I'm Peter Bradley. I'm the CEO of Torsion Information Security, and I'll introduce Antoine Berthier, CEO of Optrium as well. Good morning, Antoine.
Hello, good morning, Peter. I'm here. Thank you for doing this presentation. We are happy to have this very interesting webinar on the Torsion security today. So thank you for being there.
Fantastic. Okay. First, just to talk about the problem that we're discussing here this morning. So the first thing that we'll say is this is not a new problem, right? In nearly every information management and collaboration system really that's ever been deployed, and we're talking about old systems like legacy file share servers all the way through to the modern cloud in Office 365. The problem is that who has access to what information, when they have access and why, it decays out of control over time. Right, on day one, when these systems are stood up and everything is perfectly in line and everything is in all the right places, access is in a good place at that moment. But 6 months later, it's gotten out of control. Stuff has gone everywhere. People move around, organizational restructures, sharing all over the place. There is just so much change that goes on inside the information management and in the business environment, that who has access to what, it gets out of control over time. And when access is out of control over time, that means it is inevitable that people are going to have access to stuff they shouldn't have. It is unavoidable. And this leads us to some very significant security challenges and some very difficult compliance challenges when we need to demonstrate to an auditor that we have access under control. And also the traditional approaches to addressing this problem are very IT administrator centric, right? Other tools that have been around for a long time, they are complex technical pieces of software that are installed on an administrator's desktop, and they ask the IT admin to do two things which are pretty unreasonable. First of all, they ask the IT admin to have a good understanding of the entire state of information, right? To understand what is the information in that file, what is the security and compliance context around that file, and who should have access to that information. Even though there are millions of files and thousands of staff and constant business change and things are moving around at such a rapid rate that is simply not possible for any kind of manual human-based process to ever possibly keep up. So it's really not reasonable. And the other problem is that the IT guys don't really understand the information itself, right? The best understanding of the security and compliance implications of the information in any given file, that best understanding, it belongs with the data owners in the business, not so much with the IT guys. And so traditional IT admin-centric solutions which ask the IT guys to make these decisions about who should have access to something and how should that change over time, the IT guys are not best placed to make these decisions. And as a result, these traditional IT admin-centric type approaches, they really have not proven very effective at solving this problem in the last 20 years that they've been trying. Now, one of the things, as we all know, since the COVID-19 virus hit us all in March of 2020, there has been a an incredible explosion in home working, particularly using Microsoft Teams. Microsoft has seen an almost 10x increase in just 3 months of uptake and usage of this technology. And as a result, for users to share files and access to information is now easier than ever, right? Teams and other collaboration spaces such as SharePoint and the usage of OneDrive and so forth, these systems are now sprawling at a prolific, right? Tens of thousands of teams are getting created every minute, keeping visibility and control of who has access to what information inside of what team and other collaboration spaces as well. Solving this problem is now more critical than ever. But it's also more difficult than ever, right? Because, you know, what we need to do to keep control of access, we need to eliminate inappropriate data access, eliminate instances where somebody has access to a file or a folder or a team or a container that they shouldn't have. We need to enable external sharing because there's so much power and collaborative power with this technology, but we need to manage it. It needs to be kept under very tight control. Otherwise, the ability for people to externally share access to information can be very, very dangerous. And finally, in a compliance type scenario, we need to prove to an auditor that we have robust control of access to information in an audit type scenario. But these outcomes are incredibly difficult to achieve in a new environment, where the level of scale, the amount of information that we're dealing with now, the sprawl of new teams and SharePoint sites and collaboration containers, the growth rate of data, the rate of business change, right? Organizations constantly restructuring, people changing roles, people moving around, partners coming, customers going, all of these things, there's constant movement. Our staff is also very dispersed now. Everybody's working from home. We're not all in the same place. It's much harder to get everybody together and have a sensible conversation about this stuff. And businesses are just so dynamic nowadays. Businesses are having to pivot and change and refocus at a very rapid rate. And as a result of all of this scale and change, any kind of manual human-based process, whether it's supported by manual tools or not, they simply cannot possibly keep up with this level of scale and complexity. And so the only way that we can possibly solve this problem of maintaining perfect visibility of who has access to what and perfect control of who has access to what, even at this massive scale of data and business change, the only way we can possibly keep up with this kind of scale is with intelligent automation. Right, if we have intelligent technology that can do this for us and only require us to pay attention to the problems rather than every single instance, right? Now, good decisions about who needs access to a piece of information, they can really only be made by somebody who has a good understanding of the information itself. Right, there's no point in asking someone who doesn't really understand the information in a file to be the decider of who gets access to that information. You need to understand the information itself. And this understanding, it's not the IT teams, right? The IT guys don't really understand the data. The best decisions about who should have access to a piece of information or to a team or to a SharePoint site or the information in a file are the data owners in the business, right? So we need to focus our attention on these people. And so enough slides, let's go and have a look at a bit of a demo of the solution, which is Torsion. So Torsion takes a very, very different approach to addressing this problem relative to the traditional IT-centric type of tools, where traditional tools that install complex software on an administrator's desktop. Torsion takes an approach which is fundamentally about intelligent automation, automating the visibility and control of who has access to what information at massive scale, keeping up with constant rate of business change and doing so with intelligent automation. And where we do need to engage somebody to ask a question or verify if a problem is really a problem, then the person that we engage is not IT, it is the data owners in the business. Right, so ultimately Torsion is about monitoring who has access to what and who is accessing what. It's about empowering the business owners to take control of who has access to their own information. It is about responding to business change. So when the business changes, when people move around, Torsion allows access to information to automatically adjust, right, to respond to business change, and finally to comply, to make it easy to demonstrate compliance, to demonstrate that the business has good control of access, to demonstrate this in an audit type scenario. Torsion allows you to get control of who has access to what, when, and why. Okay, enough slides. Let's have a look at the solution. So what we can see here is obviously a pretty plain vanilla SharePoint online Teams site. There's not a whole lot clever going on in this particular collaboration container, except you might notice a couple of changes that Torsion has made to this user interface compared to what you would typically get out of the box. So the security status is critical. Torsion constantly watches your information management systems. Torsion is plugged into your Office 365 environment. Torsion is plugged into your SharePoint on-premises environment. Torsion is plugged into your on-premise file shares. We're constantly watching what information exists, who has access to what, who is accessing what. Lots and lots of data points like this are getting fed through our deep data analysis and data mining operations, which focus around machine learning and other techniques to spot problems, right? Security issues such as this guy has access to that file and it's not okay. We automatically spot that, those needles in the haystack. The next thing we do is we figure out who is the business owner of the information affected. We bring the problem to their attention, ask them what they want us to do about it. If they verify that the problem is really a problem, then we fix that problem automatically, right? So the entire flow from spotting problems, engaging with the business to capture their direction, fixing the problem and keeping track of the whole thing from an audit and reporting perspective. And that entire thing end to end is based on intelligent automation rather than manual processes. This is the crux of how Torsion works. Now, when we spot problems, one of the things that we do is we make very clear to everybody that there is a problem. So we can see the security status of this site is critical. The site's been classified Torsion as well. So this particular site has been given a finance sensitive classification, and there are a whole bunch of governance policies which are attached to that classification and which Torsion is automatically enforcing in the context of this site. So nobody is having to run those governance policies automatically. Torsion is doing that. And finally, the sharing button at the top here, Torsion actually replaces the normal default sharing experience with this screen instead, which we at Torsion we call the sharing and security. So just to have a quick look around some of the things that we can see here. So first of all, this information is accessible by 25 people, right? So right away, that's a bit of a sense check, right? For the data owner in the business, they can take a look at that and go, well, hold on, there's only 10 people who work for me. Why are there 25 people who can access my information? That doesn't sound right. They can then go in, they can see who have access, and maybe they've spotted a problem. Also, the technical people on this call might understand that that is not the easiest number to figure out. Right, there can be a lot of technical complexity underlying that number. We could have dynamic domain groups, nested domain groups. We could have dynamic domain groups inside of SharePoint groups that have site collection admin access through the back door. It can get really complex. So much so that Microsoft themselves don't even try to figure it out. How many people have access to this? Most of the time, what it will say is literally lots of people, right? Which is not entirely helpful when you're trying to engage business owners to get them to partake in taking control of the security of their own information. Torsion automatically can figure out who is the business owner of everything, right? So because Torsion is watching what's going on, we're monitoring the information, we're monitoring the access, we can automatically figure out who owns everything, right? This is a machine learning type operation. We can automatically figure out who is the owner, engage with them through a nomination and approval process, and they become the owner of the information. We can see who are the people who have access to this information. Anytime that anybody ever has access to anything, we can always tell you this kind of thing, right? Access for this person was granted by this person at this time. Notice we're also keeping track of not only who has access, but the business reason why that they do have that access. So this person, Adam, is covering for Elaine while she's on maternity. The reason that we not only track that, but make it quite visible is, well, all it really takes is for the person who happens to sit next to Elaine at her desk every day to look at that reason to look next to her and go, well, no, Elaine's right there. She got back from maternity last week. Therefore, this reason is not true. Therefore, the reason that Adam has access to this information is not true, and perhaps he shouldn't have that access. That business user, that regular business user, can then hit a flag button in the Torsion UI that's going to kick off a review process, and possibly we've just spotted a problem. And what have we just achieved there? Right? We've just engaged a regular business user to play a role in a business process to help us keep access under control, but we made their role in that process so simple that they didn't even really realize they were playing a role in a business process. Right? That's how simple Torsion makes it to help you to engage your business to help keep data access under control. You'll notice that none of the rows in this table say domain group ABC or SharePoint group XYZ or something like that, right? We're not telling you the name of the groups here. We've unraveled and hidden away all of that complexity that business users don't care about. These are the people who have access to information. We can also shine a very big spotlight on external sharing, help you to get control of external sharing. So this particular site has not been shared outside the organization. Now, that doesn't mean is external sharing turned on or off in this tenant. That means there are 25 people who have access. We know things about them. We know who they are. One of the things that we know about any given user is, are they an external person, yes or no? If at least one of those people is external, we show this as a bright orange flag, make that very clear to everybody, and provide all kinds of reporting and visibility capabilities around, well, who's it been externally shared, who shared it, what are the parameters around that, and allow you to run reports at a system-wide level, particularly from the Torsion administration console here, about, well, what has been externally shared, right, across our entire organization. What is the information that's been externally shared? Right, so we can see there are 12 files that have been externally shared in our organization. Maybe I'm interested in this one, Finance Hero. I can take a look at that in what we call our administration console and in the information estate. We're interested in this particular file. Well, here are the details about the sharing of that particular file. Taking a while to load. We'll come back to that. Right. Now, the next thing that we can also help you to do at Torsion is not only get visibility of who has access to information, but start to automatically control who has access to information, to automatically have Torsion grant and revoke access to stuff in response to business change that Torsion is also automatically detecting, so that data owners and IT teams no longer have to have some kind of manual process to grant access, to revoke access, to constantly review and check access. That very, very tedious set of business processes, Torsion allows you to do away with all of it. We're going to intelligently automate access for you. And one of the ways that we can do this is with what we call a security rule. This is where Torsion asks your business users to take a typical thought process that they might have followed in the past, which might have been, tell me who needs access to something and then tell me why they need it. And let's flip that around. Let's say, tell me why a person needs access to this information, and then let Torsion automatically figure out and control the who. So nobody's going to have to do this manually. And we call this a security rule, right? So this allows your business owners of this SharePoint site, or indeed of this team, or of OneDrive, or of file share containers, doesn't matter. It works the same way in all of these repositories, but allows your business owners to say, well, I want to give access to this particular site to anybody who is in the role of branch manager or in business manager or a content manager. And I also want them to be working in the marketing department, and I also want them to be currently working on the Contoso account, just for as long as they're assigned to the account, right? So notice as I'm hitting these checkboxes here, this security rule is building itself up automatically, right? This is very, very easy to use, and this is designed to be used by business users and not so much by IT, right? Now, as I hit these checkboxes, the rule is building itself up automatically. I can see who are the people in the business who meet this combination of criteria right now. Now, obviously, I've made that rule a little too complex, so I'm just going to clear it down and simplify. Let's say I'm going to give access to anyone who's a branch manager, a business manager, or a content manager. Okay, so there's 8 people across the business who meet this combination of criteria, this security rule right now. We can see who they are. Obviously, this is a moving target. right? Because people move around all the time. The business changes structure and allocations and roles all the time. But nonetheless, this is a bit of a useful sense check for the business owner. They can look through this and say, yep, this is pretty much the set of people I would have expected to see here. That's fine. I will add that rule. There it is. I'm going to say that these people are going to need read and write access. Save it, and it's done. Right, Torsion is now going to automatically control access to this information according to this rule and watching as people move around the organization, and no one's going to have to do anything to maintain it. The last thing that I'm going to show you here is around Torsion's ability to automatically spot problems. Right, Torsion is automatically running hundreds of different types of operations 24/7. They never stop. Deep data analysis operations that run in the Torsion cloud. You don't need to worry about them. We'll take care of that for you. But these operations are constantly spotting problems. The needles in the haystack, the incredibly difficult to find instances of that guy has access to that file and it's not okay, or this folder or this library or this team has been incorrectly configured by the data owner or by somebody and it's breaching the data governance policy and there's a problem there, or this file has been uploaded to the wrong location and as a result the information in that file is exposed to the wrong people and it's now at risk. Right, these kinds of security problems, Torsion is finding them constantly, automatically. That deep data analysis never stops. Now when we spot problems like that, what we need is a tiny little bit of human validation that that problem is actually a problem, right? And who is the best person to take a look at a problem that we found and tell us that the problem is real or not? Well, it's not the IT guys, right? Because the IT guys don't have a deep understanding of the information itself. The best people to give us that insight is the data owners in the business. So when we spot these problems, what we do is we figure out who is the data owner and we send them a quick notification. Now, we also let the IT guys know we're not trying to cut them out the loop, right? And in the Torsion administration console that we can see here, we can also see, what are the different security issues that Torsion is discovering across our information estate. But mostly what we want to do is bring the problems to the attention of the business owner, right? The data owner in the business. So we send them the notification and we also consolidate a list of the outstanding problems here. We can see, so Torsion's found a few problems in this particular finance SharePoint side. So this person here, Eleonora, she has access to this file, but she should not have access to that file, right? There's something about her profile, there's something about that file, there's something about the information in that file that means she should not have access to it. Torsion has found that automatically, right? We've found that needle in this giant haystack, we've found that problem and we're flagging it to the data owner for their attention. Also, this same file, it also does not inherit a security configuration. So, this is broken permissions inheritance. It looks like somebody has shared this file with that person, Nora. That shouldn't have happened, right? That file should not have had broken permissions. It should not have been individually shared, and that person should not have received it. Looks like it's happened anyway, right? Somebody's, perhaps this happened before Torsion got in place. Perhaps it's happened, somebody's gone around using an API or an iPhone app, something like that. Nonetheless, this sharing action has happened and it's now causing a security problem. There's some other problems here. This same user also has access to the whole site, but she should not have access to this site, right? There's something about her policy that means that's not okay. And also this file has been classified as confidential data. That classification has probably been made by our DLP technology, which Torsion integrates with, but does not compete with or undermine or overlap. And also the policy, the governance policy that's been set up by the organization here says, well, confidential information is not allowed to live in sites that have the finance sensitive classification. But nonetheless, somebody's uploaded a file here that has confidential information and Torsion has found that and flagged it as a problem. Now, finally, when we spot these problems, as I mentioned, what we need is a tiny bit of validation from the business owner that the problem is actually a problem. So the notification that they get, they click on that notification. This is where we bring them, right? We're going to tell them very, very quickly, right? The severity of this problem. This one is a warning as opposed to an error, as opposed to critical. Here's the classification, the file involved, a quick description of the problem. They can read a bit about why are we asking, right? How this could have happened and what they can do about it if they want. But ultimately, all we need the data owner to do is answer this simple question. Fix it or ignore it. That's it. Right? It is as simple as that. Fix it or ignore it. Right? We don't need anything more from them than that. And they can do this in literally 2 seconds and then we're out of their way. Right? So if they hit ignore it, that's okay. That's them telling us that this problem is not really a problem. That's fine. We will remove the issue. We'll set the status back to normal. The fact that they've done that will absolutely go into all of the logs, all of the reports. And so the auditor can see that this problem was found at this point, at this moment. It was flagged to this person at that moment. They told us to ignore it at that moment. The problem was removed at that moment. That whole history is right there in the logs. But probably 95 times out of 100, all the business owner is going to do, it's so simple for them. For them, it's simply a case of, oh, there's a problem with my stuff. Okay, fix it. And that's it, right? They hit the fix issue button and they do. Right, so we give that a moment, and Torsion is going to automatically fix whatever that problem was. And there you go, right? That's just happened. So the way that we fix that problem, it depends on what the problem was, right? If it was this this person has access to this information and they shouldn't have it, we've just revoked that person's access. If it was this object has been incorrectly configured and is breaching your data governance policy, we've just corrected the configuration. If it was this file contains information that doesn't belong here, we've just quarantined a file. So the way that we've solved the problem, it depends on what the problem was. But the point is that entire flow from automatically detecting the problem, figuring out who in the business to tell about it, bringing it to their attention, capturing their direction, automatically fixing the problem, and keeping track of the entire thing from an audit and reporting perspective. That entire flow end to end was automatic, right? At no point in that story did I just say the IT guy does something. Right? The point of Torsion is that we're automating this intelligent automation top to bottom to ultimately take you as a business to a place where you have perfect visibility of who has access to what information and perfect control of who has access to what information, and doing it without a huge focus on IT teams that are getting overwhelmed with volumes of data and you know, it can't really keep up with manual processes and tools. Now, just finally, before we go back and take a couple of questions, I just want to make clear that so we've used SharePoint for a lot of this demo here, but obviously Teams is a very important part of the story. You know, Teams is very front and center, particularly around this home working type of environment. Well, Torsion works exactly the same way in Teams as I've just showed you in SharePoint. There's literally no difference, right? The only in the case of Teams, we put a sharing and security tab into every team and into every public and private channel of every team, as you can see there. And then you get the exact same functionality, right? The exact same power and capability to see, you know, who has access, spotting problems, right? This person shouldn't have access to this, and so on and so forth. And also OneDrive is obviously a very important part of the picture now as well, right? So with OneDrive, typically the user interface for OneDrive is, well, we sync our OneDrives offline, don't we? We use the sync tool and we use our OneDrive information using Windows File Explorer. So with OneDrive, it's a case of, well, I can just right click on any file or any folder. I can click the sharing and security link from here. And then Torsion just pops up right here, hosted in Windows Explorer. So Torsion it lives within the browser where that's appropriate. It lives within the Teams client where that's appropriate. It lives with Windows File Explorer and on the desktop when that's appropriate. But apart from that, there is literally no difference in terms of how it works. Okay, we can probably just jump back to take a couple of questions at this point. Joe, are you able to read off some of the questions in the Q&A that we can see there?
Yes, absolutely. Somebody has asked, is this just for SharePoint, which I think you've just answered, but what number of employees would this be recommended for, is the question.
Sure. So the typical size of a Torsion customer, there's a bit of a range. Around the smallest customers that tend to come to us are around the sort of 75 staff type of mark, 75 to 100, possibly 150. And at top end, right up to sort of 15,000, 20,000 staff. Torsion is the problem that we solve absolutely exists in companies within that very wide range of size. Torsion scales, it works at the small scale, the 75 odd staff, and it works right up at the large scale as well. Torsion is designed to work just as well, whether at the small scale or the large scale. One of the interesting things that we see at the small scale is, in an organization of 70-something people, often there's no IT department anymore, right? There's no IT team to drive some kind of manual tool for monitoring and controlling access. So Torsion now works in that scenario, right? If there's no IT department, or if IT has been outsourced, and there's no one to really keep track of access to information, it doesn't matter anymore, because Torsion is automatically doing it for you and just flagging up to the data owners when we spot a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And maybe one for Antoine. A question has come up. How does it interface with Office 365, and especially in terms of security?
Again.
No, Peter, it's the question I've got is about the interfacing of the function within Office 365, because people ask about the security. How do you connect and have the right to modify the rights and the different rights within the Active Directory, for example?
Yeah, so the way that Torsion works, fundamentally, Torsion is a software as a service engine running in the Microsoft Azure cloud. We create a tenancy, a unique and isolated tenancy for every customer, and then that customer, in conjunction with our partner, so your team at Optrium will help you to do this, to connect your Torsion tenancy to your Office 365 tenancy, and also to any of the other information systems you may also want to connect it to, both in the cloud or on premises. So you can also connect it to your on-premise file shares, your on-premise SharePoint servers, your cloud-based file shares, and the list of systems that Torsion connects to is growing very rapidly now. Once that connection is created, actually creating the technical connection is very quick, only takes a few seconds. Once that connection is created, what Torsion does is it builds a complete index of every single file, every single folder, every single user, every single instance of a person having access to an information object, and every single instance of a person actually accessing an information object. And then once we have that index, we maintain it in real time and put it to work. It's constantly being torn apart and analyzed by all of these deep data analysis operations based around machine learning and other techniques. Now, it is a very important point to make that Torsion cannot see your data itself. Right? Torsion cannot see inside of your files. Right? The only thing Torsion can see is the metadata. So when there is a file in a folder, there will be a corresponding row in the Torsion index database, but the only thing we see is the metadata. We see file name, created by, modified by. If you have DLP or data or file classification technologies working, such as those that you get in the Security and Compliance Center in Office 365, if a file has been classified or tagged by one of those technologies, then we see the tag as part of the metadata which describes the file, but that's it. We cannot see inside of the file, and indeed, if the file is at rest, it doesn't matter to us because we can't see inside. We get the file anyway.
Thank you. And just literally, there's a couple of questions, but one, let's make this the last one, is can I trial it? How easy is it to trial Torsion, and how do I go about that? Sure. So yes, very easy. We can have a customer up and running using a 30-day free trial type scenario very quickly, a matter of hours to get that done. In terms of how you go about that, well, so this would typically be supported and driven by our partners. So Optrium, Antoine's contact details are right there on the screen. Send Antoine an email and get in touch there. They can help you not only set up a free trial of Torsion, but help you to wrap that in a proof of concept type of project. So ultimately, the proof of concept would be a
typically a 30-day project where the guys at Optrium would define some success criteria, help you set the system up in a way that makes the most sense for your business, help you, support you through that 30-day free trial, and then at the end of it, hopefully we'll be able to take a look and decide and identify that, you know, it's been a successful proof of concept. And at that point, you can choose to continue with the system and roll it out further, and, you know, gain more and more of the benefits of you know, strong data access control within the organization that Torsion delivers and makes extremely easy to enjoy.
Great. Well, thank you both.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for your time and attention, everyone. This has been great, and we'll look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yes, thank you, Peter, for this very nice presentation. Anyway, it was very interesting, and I'm sure that we will have loads of questions later on.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to that. All right. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.